Hello and welcome back to our backyard vineyard project. We're building the Gavilan Hills Vineyard on Paradise Ranch. Please join us. Click like, hit subscribe. You know the drill. You know the drill. You know the thing. Hit it below. Join us. Welcome back. This is chapter 8. It's a 3-month update on the vines. We planted our vines just about 3 months ago, and you can see behind me we've got some pretty aggressive growth. So let's see what we can do and show you some of the vines and also talk about a couple of issues we have right now going on. So let's get started. These are the Cabernet Sauvignon grapevines. We planted these 3 months ago. It's currently January 5th, 2022. And you can see we've got some pretty good aggressive growth on a lot of them. Some have some stunted growth here. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, how we're going to get around that. You can see over here, most of these haven't even come out of the sleeves yet. And we know why now, and we're correcting that. So we get up here, you can see some of the pretty aggressive growth we've got on the vines. Again, this is one of the Cabernet Sauvignon vines. As you can see, it's doing really aggressive growth, and we really are doing well on this part of the vineyard. Take a look at this. See these tendrils? The tendrils here. These are the tendrils here. You can see one here. These are what the grapevines use to grab on as they're starting to grow. So you can see these are doing really well. Now let me show you another plant that's not doing so well. This is one of our Cabernet Sauvignon grapevines as well. You can see the growth is nowhere near as big as and aggressive as some of the other plants. When you take a look at it closer, you'll see in here some of the tendrils, and I'm not sure if I can even find any because I think most of them have dried up. When tendrils get dry and flaky, oh, there's one right there. Now you can't really see it. There's one right there that's dried up. There's one right here that's dried up. When they get like that, it means they're not getting enough water. So these plants are being starved because they just aren't getting enough water down to the roots. So on these Cabernet Sauvignon vines that are struggling, you can see right there, see the tendril is completely dried out. The ones that are struggling to get water, I still have the original watering tube, and I added a second emitter this week to start getting more water down to the plant. I also wrapped the plant with some more manure and organic material down low, put about another inch of it in there to help it absorb the water and get the water down to the roots. So we should be okay in a week or so when we get a little more rain. Here's a good one right there. See that tendril? Look at that tendril. It is completely dry. Hold on, my hand's in the way. That tendril right there is completely dried up. It's completely dried up and it's hard. It just means it's not getting enough water. So we'll be getting water to them more now. I'm going to increase the water bit just this week. We're going to have 2 weeks of cool weather, which means 85 to 90. So I think we should be okay with this without too much trouble. Now we're on the other side now. This is the Grenache. My 100 Grenache are on this side. Well, and you can see that the growth on these are somewhat better than the Cabernet Sauvignon, which I expected because they claim Grenache does really well in heat. I'm gonna go over here. I'm not sure you can see this. Some of the vines are coming outside of my catch wire. The growth is pretty good. I don't have any that are short and dried out like over on the Cabernet Sauvignon side, and I'll explain that in a minute. But this is not bad. I've got some pretty good growth. Remember, this is 3 months in. We've still got another, 4 or 5 months of growth. So I'm hoping within the next 3 months, I'm gonna keep checking that back with you guys, but in the next month or 2 or 3, this should be completely filled with Grenache grapevines. These are the Cabernet Sauvignon vines, and someone told me recently that grapevines, young grapevines, are a lot like teenagers. They all grow at their own rate. They all develop differently. If you take a look over here, notice how these vines are a lot smaller and not quite as developed. The reason we believe that these vines are not as well developed is because of the watering tube. There's a hard pan here under these plants, a very, very hard surface that went down about 12, 15 inches we had to dig into. The watering tubes are delivering water directly to the roots, but they're not allowing the water to spread out. On the other side, the Cabernet, on the Grenache, you saw that dramatic growth. Well, that dramatic growth was a result of being in more sandy soil, allowing that water to spread out. So we think that we have not been giving enough water to these plants, and they should start seeing some aggressive growth here over the next couple weeks. So to solve my problem with some of the plants that are dried out, we added a second emitter, but we're actually adding a second emitter on all of the grapevines. I was planning on doing that in June because I was planning on warm weather in July. When it hit in June, it caught me a little off guard. Besides, we've been busy with holidays and families and stuff like that. 3 months ago when we started this, I was doing about 6 gallons a week of water per plant. I upped it up a little bit more. Right now we're putting in about 12 with one emitter. I'm going to put in 2 emitters started yesterday, and today I'll put in the second emitter on each plant, which will put me up to 2 emitters, 2 gallon emitters, 2 2-gallon emitters, and I should be putting about 18 to 20 gallons of water on each plant. So it's 18 to 20 gallons a week per plant. 1,000 gallons, so we're doing quite a bit. So this is a Cabernet Sauvignon and this is a Grenache. You can see they both have done some pretty dramatic growth. I've actually clipped this one once at the top and once at the top over here, but they're still growing. And I'm going to talk about pruning my first year vines in the next video. But you can see I've got some pretty good growth. This is well over 6 feet on these 3 here, and that one's coming up. Like we said, they're a lot like teenagers. They take time to develop, some of them. So as I said, it's been, 3 months now. We've got some pretty aggressive growth on some of our vines. Some are still working along. Like we said, they're a lot like teenagers. They develop at their own speed. So we're going to be helping some of them along, adding a little more watering and putting a little more fertilizer on them too. So next time I'll talk about pruning and what we're doing about pruning on these young vines in opposition to what some people think. So please join us. We'd love to have you. Leave comments and we'll see you next time. This is Jeff. Goodbye. Until next time, we're out.